Hello and welcome to National Park Wild. I'm Eric. For the most part on this channel, I have discussed my trips to US national parks. However, there are some national parks outside of the US I've visited that are just as good, if not better, than those in America. So today, I'll be talking about the top 10 national parks I've been to outside of the US. Before we get to the ranking, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when new national park content comes out, and also comment down below any suggestions you have for future videos. Now, a few things I should point out regarding where I have been. I've not been to every national park. I haven't seen great things such as those in Africa, Asia, most of South America. What I have seen is plenty of Canada, been to Australia national parks, a couple of them, and then there's a few scattered in Europe and South America that I have been to. With that out of the way, let's get to the top 10. Number 10 is probably the one that least have heard of. It's Elk Island National Park in Canada. This one, in terms of scenery, is quite similar to Voyageurs National Park, in my opinion. It is nice. It's not mind-blowing scenery like some of the others on this list. Cool lake, and you have some forest. However, I went in winter, so the lake was frozen over, which is a sight I don't believe I'd ever really seen that much of before. So that was really cool to see, honestly. I'd never been in that kind of experience, and the amount of bison in the park, which is one of my favorite animals to see in any national park, is also quite major. So overall, I definitely think Elk Island is an underrated national park, and one that if you go to Canada, it's definitely worth going to. It's actually not that far from Edmonton. Number 9 is Thingvellir National Park in Iceland. I apologize if that's not the correct pronunciation. This is a great park. I enjoy the stunning rock formations, the unique history such as having the first parliament ever. And there's some wildlife here, some unique birds, saw some feral goats. There's not a whole lot else to say about this one. I do think the other areas I saw in Iceland are just as deserving of park status as Thingvellir, but they don't have it, such as Gullfoss Waterfall. That said, I do love this park, and it definitely earned a top 10 spot. Number 8 is Port Campbell National Park in Australia. This is along the Great Ocean Road in Victoria, and it's mostly known for having a view of the 12 Apostles. Unique rock formations in the water, right along the coast, and that's really the main reason to go here. There are some hikes you can do down to the beaches, around the beaches. I've seen a lot of this area, and I enjoy it a lot. Not too much else to say about this one. I've seen wallabies and kangaroos here, so that's good for the wildlife perspective. And the scenery is nice. That said, others above it do have a couple of other pieces of scenery and more diversity overall, and that's kind of why this doesn't rank as high. That said, it earned its top 10 spot. Number 7 is Karanda National Park in Queensland, Australia. This is in the Daintree Rainforest, so some of you may be more familiar with just Daintree National Park. And while that park is nice, I think of the Daintree National Parks, this is the best one. You have some quite large rainforest mountains actually, with dozens and dozens of waterfalls. And right outside this one is the Barren River Falls Gorge, which is definitely one of my favorite waterfalls anywhere. And overall, the wildlife is something to write home about. Though I did not see cassowaries here, we saw tons of turkeys, a lot of other unique birds such as eagles that I had never really seen in Australia before. And there's some mammals, small ones, and there's plenty to see in this park. I just think being able to take a train ride through the rainforest is something that was pretty special, and I definitely enjoy that a lot. And overall, this park just ranks in the 7th area because there are 6 others that are just even more amazing. Number 6 is Uluru-Kata Tjuta National Park in Australia. Some of you are probably familiar with Uluru or Ayers Rock. Recently, actually, it closed all climbing. This would have been about 3 years ago, but it was months after I went, so I have climbed to the top of Uluru. And the view from the top is fascinating. It's not tons of mountains surrounding you, it's mostly a flat area with rock formations way in the distance, so you are on top of the world pretty much. And doing the climb is something that's definitely unforgettable. And I think seeing the rock from below is also cool as well, because from anywhere you go, similar to Stonehenge, it's a different angle. And seeing it at sunrise and sunset is also special, as the colors can go from red to orange to purple just like that. Number 5. Wilson's Promontory National Park, also in Victoria, Australia. I think few of you have probably heard of this one. However, it is underrated. Regarding scenery, I don't think it is number 4 or 5 out of these parks. I'll talk about what it is though. It's similar to what I hear people describe Acadia as. You have some nice lush mountains, and you have beaches, tons of great beaches. Some flatter areas, ponds, rivers, lakes. Nice, but not quite the dramatic mountains and deserts that I love the most in the US national parks. However, what this park lacks in the best scenery, it makes up for with the best wildlife. This is, of all the places I've gone to in Australia, probably the best place to see outback type wildlife, even though it's not really the outback. While here, I saw kangaroos, wombats, emus, dingoes, and foxes. All animals that are something that anybody would want to check off their list if they came to Australia. And there's not too much else to say because the wildlife is what stood out the most, but the one other thing I'll point out, this goes for Uluru as well, but the stargazing here is second to none. No place in the US I've been to has stargazing quite as breathtaking as that of Wilson's Promontory. Number 4. This one hurts, but Jasper National Park in Canada. Jasper, I wish I could put at number 1. Any of these top 4 easily could have been and are among the best of any national park I've been to. The Canadian Rockies are stunning. In Jasper, Athabasca Glacier and Falls are both unbelievable sights, especially since I went in November, and they were pretty much frozen over. Obviously you'd expect the glacier to be, but the frozen waterfall was special. And then there are mountains. Canadian Rockies, probably some of the most beautiful mountains anywhere in the world. And of the ones I've seen, they are really high up there. There's not too much else to say about the scenery because it's not like you have a ton of postcard sites that people always go to by name like some other parks. It's more of an exploration. You go from place to place, you'll see a mountain you've never really heard of before. You won't have heard of people talking about certain mountains here, but they're amazing to look at. Lakes, rivers, waterfalls, mountains, glaciers, so much to see here. And wildlife is also strong, as bighorn sheep and elk are quite a sight. Number 3 is Banff National Park. Very close to Jasper, they're sister parks essentially. This one also in the Canadian Rockies, it barely got the edge above Jasper. Regarding wildlife, I do think Jasper had more when I went. I only really saw bighorn sheep and a couple deer in Banff. However, I think Banff's mountain scenery and overall scenery is more impressive. The mountains seem larger, and they're also wider, and seeing such a completely snow-covered mountain is something that I'd only ever really seen in Denali besides that. And for those who do not know, if I'm comparing anything to Denali, it's really good. So this park has frozen lakes when I went, so it was awesome to see that once again. There's hikes like Johnston Canyon that not too many people do or talk about, but it takes you through a waterfall area, and it's nice to see. And there's so many amazing things to do and see in Banff National Park. It's probably my favorite place anywhere in Canada or thus far. And if it were to rank among my US national parks, it would almost definitely be top 10. Number 2, Great Barrier Reef Marine Park in Australia. This one I am somewhat cheating. It's not technically a national park. However, so many consider it such, and I will take any excuse to talk about Great Barrier Reef because it really is one of the most amazing places in the world. Snorkeling is one of my favorite things to do. I love snorkeling pretty much anywhere I go. I enjoyed it in Virgin Islands, in my home Florida, all sorts of places. However, Great Barrier Reef, quite literally, blows all of the others out of the water because it has such diversity. Honestly, I think I had seen a new fish I had never been familiar with pretty much every 5 seconds on my exploration of the reef. I went on 3 different excursions of the reef because it was just that good, and the most major sightings were dolphins, turtles, some really large predator fish, and a cuttlefish, which I had never seen before. This park is not technically national park, And because it is entirely reef, it's not going to be one where you hike or drive. It's water. So if you are not a fan of snorkeling and scuba diving, you probably will not enjoy this park because you won't really be able to see much of it. But if you do, you'll be treated to the most vibrant and colorful coral reef anywhere in the world, with some of the most incredible diversity of wildlife, and just an unbelievable, unforgettable experience. Easily one of the best national parks, if it counts, in the world. But there's one other that's even better. Number 1 is Galapagos National Park in Ecuador. The Galapagos Islands are known for their biodiversity, similar to the Great Barrier Reef. And honestly, my week experience in the Galapagos pretty much made me reconsider if Yellowstone was the best national park in the world. Because Galapagos is not only my favorite national park outside of the US, but possibly including those in the US. So the Galapagos regarding the wildlife. Some of the animals you may see here: sharks, sea turtles, tons of flying birds such as pelicans. You'll see penguins, cormorants, whales, and then there are some unique land creatures. Maybe not land if you go to a certain area, but you'll find iguanas, and you'll find even mice, which is not the most wild part there, that's a more invasive thing. And there's also goats on some of the islands. Some of the birds include frigate birds, blue-footed boobies, albatross. There's so much wildlife to see here. Dozens of crabs. I can't even list all of them off the top of my head, that's how many incredible animal sightings there were. And the hikes that you can do on the actual islands are also amazing. You can walk along molten lava on a volcanic island, see some lakes that were formed within the lava. You can see flamingos wading. You can see Kicker Rock, a large rock jutting out of the ocean that looks kind of like a boot. You can just do stargazing here because it's a quiet area and you're not going to have a whole lot of light pollution to worry about. Galapagos, it's hard to describe just how amazing it is. But with hiking, snorkeling, and so much else this good, with wildlife especially being the best in the world, I think Galapagos is easily one of the top 2 national parks in the world, and it's absolutely an experience that one could never forget if they get the chance to go here. So that is my ranking of the 10 national parks outside the US I enjoy the most. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Comment your thoughts, any international parks you've been to down below, subscribe to the channel for more content, and like this video if you did enjoy. I'll see you next time.